Welcome! You're listening to Making Relationships Work. We're a company focused on women and their marriage. We lead and teach women just like you how to grow into and access, whenever you need to, your wise woman's self. The part of you who is deeply connected to your purpose, your innate wisdom, and your husband and family. We teach women in marriages how to rebuild trust and connection, to work through conflicts no matter how deep, no matter how painful, and to lead your marriage to a place where the two of you experience marriage mastery. This podcast is about learning the systems and techniques that truly work to reconnect you back into your marriage so that you can experience the freedom that comes with a masterful marriage. Since this podcast is totally free, if you're getting tons of value and you want to support us and make sure that you get more of this good stuff, subscribe below and rate and review our podcast today. Now, on to the show. Hello, Women Making Marriages Work. Hello, Making Relationships Work podcast and YouTube. I'm really happy to be with you here tonight, doing a Facebook Live on one of the most common questions I get asked. And that question is, my husband's given up on us. He's moved out. He's stonewalling me. He won't talk to me about it. He's living in a separate bedroom in the house. He says we can't be fixed, but I don't want that to be my reality. Can it be fixed if he thinks that it can't? This is literally the most common question I have is, if someone has given up, can the other one make a difference? And here's the answer. Yes, of course they can. You can't make somebody do something, that's for sure. And so that's an important kind of caveat. But that doesn't mean there's still not hope. And so if you are a person who has been in a marriage or a relationship that has been in crisis, or that has been in low levels of connection and it's fallen into a state of disrepair where it hurts a lot and the two of you have chosen avoidance because trying to work it through hasn't worked, and it's got to the point where one of you, your husband probably if you're in this group, where one of you has said, okay, well, we're out now, I can't do it now, I can't do it, we've tried everything, it doesn't work. I want to let you know that this is the case for very many of the women I work with. It's usually this level of crisis that inspires big decisions to do things differently. Humans very often run away from pain. We run away from emotional pain, physical pain. We don't like what it feels like in our body. And so we've created these ways to not feel it. So we numb it by using alcohol or substance abuse. We numb it through gambling or the dopamine hit that comes from social media or use of porn. We look for ways to change the state of what it feels like in us, usually unhealthily, so that we don't have to feel like that anymore. Sometimes we Google and we research and we read, or we ask our friends or our pastor at church, or we look for small band-aids that bring a little bit of a sense of healing or balm for a little while. That's another coping mechanism to get away from pain. But these things, they don't work when what your marriage is missing is connection and repair. There's no article on the internet that's going to save your marriage. There just isn't, because it's not that straightforward. We're not trying to put one washer in some kind of mechanical engine and then all of a sudden the whole engine runs. That's not what a marriage is. In fact, relationships are the most complex things. And so I want you to think about your marriage right now. And I want you to think about how you got yourselves to here. There'll be reasons that your husband or contributions your husband has made. There'll be contributions you have made. There will be complexities that life has made. So your husband might not be very good at talking about what it feels like to be him. He might criticize you instead of telling you what he actually is really longing for. You might not be very good at being able to hear him without solving his problem. And you might have some complexities of life, like loss of income for a few months, or a child with special needs, or an elder in your family who needs more from you right now. Or you might have just moved house, which is extraordinarily stressful. You might find that there's a lot of factors that have led you to this point. But here's the thing. You and your husband, when you met each other and fell in love, and you decided to get married and to create and share your whole life together, you didn't sign up for that lightly. You didn't take those vows in front of your family and friends to not do a good job. And so, as it has gotten harder over the years, remember it takes most couples about 6 years to get to a level of crisis where they call it quits. So over those 6 years it's taken for you to get to this point, you have tried. I know you have. Your husband has tried. I know he has. And it hasn't worked. And so in this conversation, we're saying, well, here's a husband who says, well, I've tried it and it didn't work. So what do I do now? Well, there's nothing left to do but to leave. And so I say to you, is that really true? It's probably not true. Maybe you got unlucky with a couples counselor you went to. You will have seen some of my videos on how couples counselors are generally pretty bad. They generally aren't well trained. They generally don't use methods that work to help couples process past hurts and rebuild something that works. They're not very good at it. Generally, counselors say, well, I can handle one person, so I can probably handle two. So let's just sort it out. It doesn't work like that. And so maybe you and your husband went to therapy. Maybe it made it worse. That happens a lot. Maybe it made it better for a little while, but you didn't really get to the heart of it because you felt like the counselor liked one person more than another. That happens a lot too. Or they made judgments on you, or they missed the ability to hold and contain the pain that you had so that you could actually work through it. That happens all the time. And so you're here because your husband looks at your life and says, I have tried everything. I have tried it all. I went to therapy with you. I tried being kind. I tried giving you what you wanted. I tried buying you what you wanted. I tried being more attentive in the bedroom. I tried my version of my best with everything that I know. And you know what? I believe him. And I believe you. You have tried your best too. And yet you're here and it hasn't worked. And I want you to take from that the normality of how many times I've heard that conversation, how many times I've heard this statement. And here's the thing. The thing is that most of the time, it's not that you've tried everything. It's not that you haven't tried everything. It's that you haven't tried everything else. You've tried what you know. You've tried what your people in your community have taught you. You've tried the bits and pieces that are on the internet. You've tried from a therapist who was pretty terrible, or a pastor who steered you in the wrong direction, or a community or family member who really has no idea. And you tried, and it didn't work. But here's the thing. Sometimes you just haven't got the thing you need, and you've given up too soon. That happens so often. We have divorce rates at 50% in America. 50%. Should 50% of relationships end? I'm here to tell you, probably not. Maybe 10%. Let's be really generous. 20% should end. There are a couple that aren't a good match. Okay, we can abide by that. We can make sense of that, but 50%, it's illogical, it's irrational. It doesn't make sense. What we're really looking at in those stats is a skill set gap. A gap in knowing how to do better, a gap in being able to look after self before marriage so that the two of you come in on your own 2 feet, kind of like this, where you're holding hands and you're on your own 2 feet and you're thoroughly enjoying each other. Not this, where one goes down and the other one goes down. Where you can't talk about what it feels like to be you because you've never seen it modeled in your life. Your family of origin didn't do it. That happens all the time for our men. They just get the short shift. They don't get to be an emotionally full human as a kid because they're a man usually. You're a man, get over it. Real boys don't cry, real men don't cry. All of that kind of stuff is embedded culturally still. And so you get 2 people who pledged their lives together and meant it, and then realized that they needed to grow into the humans that could do that with love and grace and connection and happiness and kindness and certainty and strength and love and passion with good sex. They're not things that you just get taught about willy-nilly. No one teaches you how to do that. And there's the problem. Yeah? If we have 50% of marriages that end in divorce, then we have the parents and families of those 50% who didn't know how to do it or teach it well. You see that? This is not anything much more than a skill set problem, a development of self opportunity. And so if you get to be in a space where you can be the one in the marriage that says, honey, I know that you don't feel like we can do anything different or better. I hear that. You've tried everything and I appreciate you. I'm going to pick this up for a little while because I know it can be better. And I know you're tired and I know that you don't want to do it anymore because you feel like you've failed. And you've taken that failure to heart as a man, as a human, as a husband, and you want to get away from the pain of that failure and cut the tie with me and go and start fresh, where it doesn't hurt to look at your wife and know you've failed every day. I get that, my husband. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure out how we need, or what we need, to get ourselves back on track to process the pain that we've caused each other, intentionally and unintentionally. And then we're going to figure out together what kind of marriage we want. And we're going to design that marriage. And in designing it, we build it the way we want it. But we're going to need a new skill set for that. And I can feel and hear from you that you're too tired to do it. You are exhausted. You have tried and it hasn't worked. And so I am going to pick this up. And as I pick this up, I step into my strength. I step into my wisdom. And I hold my hand out for you and we do it together. And that is that is exactly what it is required of you in this moment. It's your marriage. The cost here is your marriage, the most important thing to you on the planet, or your leadership. So if you don't want to lead, if you don't want to find the strength to step into this space and lead, it will cost you your marriage. And if you do want to, you've got a really good shot at influencing that marriage. Now, some of you will say, well, what if I do all of that and I still lose him? I say to you, what if you do all of that and you leave each other in a space of kindness and repair where you can manage the children and the access visits easily, and then you start your next relationship on your own 2 feet, where you literally can't fail. You'd pick up the opportunity to lead this marriage that you're in. You learn everything you need to know to give it every shot on the planet to be different. And if by some chance you fall into that 10% and you say, well, we both tried, didn't we? Yes, honey, we did. Has it got to end? Yes, it looks like it. Okay, well, let's do it as friends. Let's do it in a way that allows us to co-parent really beautifully. All right, my love. Isn't that a totally different experience? Do you see that no matter what your relationship is, that it is required of you to lead? Whether it's healthy, whether it's unhealthy, whether it's nearly dead, whether you're in the stages of pursuing separation through to divorce, your leadership is required. And if your husband, your beautiful husband, has run out of energy, he's run out of a sense of being able to do it himself, isn't the opportunity for you to step in and lead, to grow that strength and that muscle in yourself, the very best gift you can give yourself? Why, yes, it is. And so if your husband says, it's over, I can't do this anymore, I've tried everything, it doesn't work, the answer is not, okay. The answer is, I'm going to double down here and I'm going to do the work that for 6 years I haven't done. And in doing that, in modeling and leading my own life on my own 2 feet, taking responsibility for myself and my dependence, I am actually reaching out a hand to my husband, which allows him to step into the good, strong man he is destined to be. Because both of you feel terrible being so unsuccessful in your marriage. Both of you hate that feeling of knowing that you are handing down separation and trauma and grief and loss to your kids. That's not what you signed up for. That's not who you are. But that's where you are. You're there now. And is that okay? Yes. Humans get themselves into these sorts of things all the time. That's where the learning is. But what's not okay is to not do the work, to let yourself off the hook through avoidance, resistance, denying, blaming, justifying, stonewalling, criticizing, using contempt. That's not okay. That's not a woman who's leading. That's not a woman who's embodying the matriarchal qualities that live in you. That's a woman who's turning her back on herself and her own greatness. And so the next time you feel like giving up or your husband gives up, take a minute, find some recalibration. Take a deep breath and then say, I have a choice here. My choice is to do the work to grow into somebody who knows how to work through this. And if I don't, I'm setting my life down a path where I'll end up divorced and I'll end up with kids who come from a family of being divorced, and I'll very likely meet somebody else and do this whole pattern again, because that's what humans do. We're trying to figure out patterns that we inherited in our family, patterns that we came across in the schoolyard, patterns that don't make sense to us. We replicate and replicate and replicate until we do. So the patterns that are causing you problems in your marriage that you can't fix are the things that you've been carrying with you your whole life. So they're going to follow you wherever you go. So if you're thinking, we'll just end this marriage, or I don't want to end this marriage, but I can't change it, then you can. It's a choice. It's always a choice. The choice is to expand your identity enough to go and get the skills and the help that you need to do the repairs, to do the cleanup of the damage that's been done. Your marriage has collapsed, yes? So that needs a lot of cleanup. But is it possible? Yeah, it totally is possible. I do it all day, every day. Do you get to build the marriage and design it exactly the way that you both want it? Yes, you do. But what's it going to take for you to get started? It's going to take a decision from you, because your beautiful husband has given up. He's given up because he doesn't know how to do it better. He doesn't know where to go to get the help. And he's internalized that as being a failure as a man, a failure as a husband. And that is not sitting well with his identity. And so he's moving away from the pain. And the pain, my love, is the mirror that is you. And so if you want to know how to do this differently, I'm here to help. You can watch my masterclass. I highly recommend it. Then, after you've watched the masterclass, you're welcome to book a free call with me and my team. We're going to get clear on your specific experiences. We're going to assess your specific marriage. What's got you both to here? We're going to give you a plan on how to move through that. There's nothing more important than doing the work to stepping into the identity that is being called from you. I call it your wise woman. And I call your husband's version of that his good man. Neither one of you are in your wise woman or good man. Both of you are moving away from pain and blaming the other one. One of you needs to interrupt this cycle to lead. You're here because you want to do that. So watch the masterclass. Book the call. Let's be the change you want to see. Let's give you everything you've been looking for. Sending so much love to you as you walk yourself through that decision. I want you to know that you can do this and that I can be right beside you every step of the way. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, loves. Thank you for tuning into today's show. If you're feeling fired up and you're ready to grow and you want to know more about how to do that, here is what I want you to do now. I want you to watch my marriage masterclass. This masterclass will show you how my clients have turned their struggling marriages into thriving marriages, even without their husband's buy-in. How my clients have gone from cycles of poor communication, disconnect and loneliness to being teammates and soulmates with their husbands again, even after they've already tried everything. And the proven system my clients use to start transforming their marriages in minutes, not years, because life is too precious to waste one more minute in an unhappy and unfulfilling marriage. So if this is what you're looking for, I want you to click the link below and take a look at my masterclass.